The first and perhaps most frightening thing I need to respond to in your speech was that video games do not intentionally glorify gun violence. That statement is completely inaccurate. Without the end goal of having the most kills or outliving your competitor, maybe that would be a valid argument. If there were games that were not in the likes of Grand Theft Auto, where you are rewarded for killing people, people labeled as prostitutes and homeless people within the game, then maybe that would be a fair statement. But to say that these types of video games do not intentionally glorify gun violence would be to be naive to the point of the games themselves. If they did not have the glorification, they would not have the appeal to gamers and would not be pertinent to this discussion. You are correct in saying that people generally do have a strong sense of reality, which is why the proposed ban only pertains to those developing their sense of reality, children. The years where we are forming our sense of right from wrong is especially important, which is why the ban is monitoring their use. Another point that is concerning was your use of the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting as the most recent shooting, when that is sadly not the case. I also did not hear any evidence provided that every school shooter is mentally unstable, so without credible support, I feel that is an unfair and politically incorrect statement to make to support the neglect of this topic. Since you did bring up the Sandy Hook shooting, it might be beneficial to know that GameSpot.com, a website dedicated completely to gaming, decided in light of the events at Sandy Hook and the identified practice Adam Lanza got from first-person shooter video games, they shut down their website for the day. If that is not an acknowledgement of guilt, I don't know what is. I also hardly consider an expert in economics a valid person to speak on such a subject, and therefore am not going to address his conclusions on a deeply psychological subject. What I am trying to establish is not that video games that glorify gun violence are the only reason people may become violent later in their lives, but it is a contributing factor. And while your studies do present that they are not the sole factor, I have not heard one that rules them out of being an influence whatsoever. As for your point that the shooters are over 18 when they decide to take action, some are, and the reason that people under 18 should be banned from such graphic situations is because when we are developing cognitively and learning right from wrong, it is especially important. If we are able to establish a healthy way to grow up and think before situations that teach us that we can be rewarded for killing prostitutes are unlikely to happen in real life, like games such as Grand Theft Auto, then those situations in video games stay situations as such. They do not blur the lines of our reality. As for your use of the rating system in place, there are 6 ratings from early childhood to mature. However, violence is a theme that comes up in early as a rating for E for everyone. So what I'm proposing is not the status quo. I also did not hear support that parents are pre-ordering games, but nonetheless, if you want to bring up parents as the guidelines, the United States has a hands-on approach when parents cannot appropriately provide what is needed for their children. There is significant harm in not acting and continuing such a cycle with scapegoats like the rating system and parents' protection. It would be irresponsible.